Someone make it make sense.
Probably a couple.
Hello. How are you guys doing? So I have so many streams you guys set up on StreamYard, and I was talking about this the other day, how on StreamYard, like, it only shows you the first, like, couple words of whatever your stream is. So for me, if you guys notice on my thumbnails or my titles, it's like covering so many cases, and to make it easy for people who are following them, and for me, they're categorized. So it's like, it's like Commonwealth of Massachusetts v. Karen Reed, which is already really long, right? But it's the correct way to group, it's the right name, right way to call it. And then it has whatever the thing is. So like, for example, on StreamYard, the amount of that will show up is like, I think part of the word Commonwealth. It might be like common we. So point being, when I've got like multiple streams set up for the same case, they group them weirdly. And basically what happened earlier was I actually went live on another live stream I had set up for Karen Reed, but it was for upcoming, like it was supposed to be scheduled, like in other words, it was going to be for the next batch of documents. And so because I didn't know when that would be, I had it privately listed. So I was live and reading through the first batch of documents and didn't realize that I was on the wrong one and that it was private and no one could see it. So I ended that, and then I went to reschedule the one that I thought I was doing. And then I was like, well, you know what? More documents are coming out in BK's case. So let me just go ahead real quick and go through the last batch of what I had planned, because already we're getting more documents there. Basically, these cases are insane. And right now we've got these motions in limine now for both this case, for BK and for Karen Reed. But of course, there's things happening in all of the cases. And so I'm just trying to keep up, basically. So, okay. So we're going to just, as planned, go through this batch of documents here that up until recently would have actually concluded what was on the entire docket for BK. Because as you guys know, I cover everything. So let me just make sure I've got this pulled up. Evidence. I think I have it all here. This one. Okay, so how are you guys doing though? Also, for anyone who's missed it, I have been also working really hard on stuff for our first members only live stream. I'm super excited. So we're gonna do a trivia night, guys. We're gonna do a trivia night, and nothing existed. Shout out to Meg P, by the way. That's so funny. Right. And that's the other thing. We have in the Scroll Crew, we have scrolls from all over the world, and we have scroll crew friends who have insomnia, or they're early birds, or they're late night owls, and they're just in different time zones. So it's really like, I know that anytime I go live, there's gonna be people that are here that are happy I'm live. Shout out to Bunny as well. Happy to see you. So yes, our first members only live stream though is gonna be super exciting, guys. So what we're gonna do is a trivia, and I was trying to find a platform that could do what I wanted to do, where we could do this live. I couldn't find anything. And you guys, this probably won't surprise y'all, right? What do I do when I don't find it? Something doesn't, I can't, there wasn't a platform that exists that was what I was looking for. So what am I doing? I'm creating it. But of course, why not, right? So I'm creating the trivia game with the questions and like the visuals and the graphics, and I could try to go way overboard with the visuals and the graphics, as I want to do but I figured, well, let me find some stuff that looks good and focus on the questions. So anyway, I'm getting it all put together, and I think this will be really, really, really fun. So it's going to be, I think this first one will be law trivia. So yeah, so not your normal. I mean, we can do other trivia as well, with different categories, but this is going to be law related trivia, which I think is just going to be really fun. And it's not going to be teams, because it's just going to be whoever like gets the answer first, and I'm just going to keep track. Actually, I guess I need to invent a way to do that as well. I'll probably write it down. I think I'll probably write it down. But eventually it might be that there's a way I can do something on the computer where it can show you, it can have everybody's name and then keep track. I don't know. That seems like really so high tech. It's funny. I have all these ideas that I don't think anybody's really come up with yet for like technology and like streaming and stuff. And anyway, so I had a pretty good one the other day too. What was it? I don't even remember. But yeah. So I don't know where Twiz is, because I just was texting Twiz and he was like, "Where are you?" I was like, "I'm live, yo." And well, I was live, but no one knew I was live, but I'm live again. So much happening. And also, for anyone who missed it, I do want to cover Lori Vallow, because she had a hearing and she was pro se, and she had to answer questions for the court on hearsay exceptions. Dude, it's not long. It's really exciting and really good and so worth watching. We're gonna watch it. I'm just also getting that thumbnail put together, because I didn't have anything prepared for Lori. So I'm just getting a thumbnail put together, and then we will watch that hearing as well. So yeah, so there you go. Awesome. Thank you. I'm so sorry though for you guys that have these different chronic fatigue and, insomnia. I'm so sorry. I mean, I know it's not really a get well soon situation, because it's not like being sick, like with, a thing that you get sick with, but I do hope you guys feel better. And in the meantime, I'm glad that, y'all are here and that we can keep each other company with following these cases. So, okay, let me just look at my list here. Okay, so we're going to start with the batch of states' motions in limine from, this is from that first onslaught, if you will. Seems like the easiest way to call it. So, let me plug in my phone. All right, so what we're going to have is we're going to start here with, why is Adobe? Okay, here we go. We're going to start here with this one. So this is again from February 21st. So this is state's motion in limine, alternative perpetrator evidence. Twiz, did you hear what I was saying? I was live, but nobody knew I was live. It was so sad. Every now and again, right? It's like I'm live and I'm like all alone in the universe. And I'm like, what's going on? And then I'm like, oh my God, I'm on the wrong live stream. Yay. Luckily, when that happened the other day, it was only for like 10 minutes before I realized. There was one live stream where I was like live for a solid hour before I realized that I was on the wrong one. Tonight it was like probably 40 minutes or so. Okay, so state's motion to eliminate alternative perpetrator evidence. So comes now as per usual. From Latah County prosecuting attorney moves the court in limine for an order prohibiting the defendant from offering, in scare quotes, alternative perpetrator evidence or argument without first satisfying the court that any such, sorry, I just satisfying real quick. Let's do this because we've got these new things here. Speaking of satisfying.
Hard as a rock, freeze thaw effects on penetrometer resistance. His head's as hard as a rock.
Penetrometer was the thing that I missed that the first like 8 watches through of that hearing. And then I heard the penetrometer and I was like, How did I miss that? So we're no longer missing it. We are appreciating it because there it is in the same context.
Hard as a rock, freeze thaw effects on penetrometer resistance. His head's as hard as a rock.
Penetrometer is measuring. Okay, so as much as I don't want this dude to testify, because obviously I think that Judge Bev's probably going to let him testify, but you know what? At this juncture, I'm okay with it in a way, because think about trial and all of the inside jokes and that's what she said. So you will get out of that testimony, right? It'll be amazing. Okay, so yes. we were talking about satisfying the court. So without first satisfying the court that any such evidence is relevant and admissible pursuant to Idaho Rules of Evidence 401, 402, or 403. In support of this motion, the state refers the court and counsel to State v. Meister, where the Idaho Supreme Court addressed the standard for assessing the admissibility of alternative perpetrator evidence. Citing to State v. Self, the Idaho Supreme Court noted the trial court must first consider and determine whether the proffered evidence is relevant under Idaho Rules of Evidence 401. The second step is to determine whether the probative value of the proffered evidence is substantially outweighed by the danger of unfair prejudice, confusion of the issues, or misleading the jury, or by considerations of undue delay, waste of time, or needless presentation of cumulative evidence. So the Idaho Supreme Court stated, if the defendant proffers evidence which merely tends to mislead the jury that another person committed the crime, or the evidence is not relevant because it does not tend to make the defendant's involvement more probable or less probable, then it is within the trial court's discretion to find the evidence inadmissible. Mere inferences that another person could have committed the crime will most likely not be relevant, and if relevant, will still be subject to the limitation and provisions of Idaho Rules of Evidence 403. In this case, during the course of the investigation, so in case anyone's like, alternative perpetrator, what are they talking about? Is it the DNA? Not so fast. Whereas Peter Tragos will say, au contraire. I think this is what they're getting at here. In this case, during the course of the investigation, literally thousands of tips regarding possible perpetrators were received by law enforcement, with the exception of information regarding the defendant. What information? Huh? All right, I'm going to lose my mind. Is this literally Santa trying to include the IGG quote tip into this category of tips, as in people who called in? With the exception of information regarding the defendant, none of these tips were substantiated. The state submits that any attempt by the defendant to offer or argue an alternative perpetrator theory without evidence, specifically connecting persons other than the defendant to the homicides, would do nothing more than mislead and confuse the jury, and would also result in undue delay, waste of time. So basically, the way I'm interpreting is like the people that called in and were like, so-and-so did it. I think what they're saying is they don't want the defense to try to say that any of those people did it. Do you guys think that they were going to do that? Do y'all think that was their strategy? I'm just curious. Yeah, agreed. Bev and her bangs are the worst. Yep. Durable for life, yo. So what do you guys think? Do you all think that the defense was planning on suggesting alternative perpetrators via the tips that people called in? I have my own thoughts, but honestly, I want to hear what you guys think. Meg says she doesn't truly understand this. So this is saying, so far, right, what they're saying is they're stating, it's kind of confusing because they started with like the case law before what they're actually talking about. It could have been done the other way around, been less confusing. Because you don't know what they're talking about until you get to here. So what they're talking about is people that called in tips, right? When they're like, when it was like initially like, who done it? Da, da, da. And then they got all these phone calls and people called in tips. So they don't want the defendant to argue an alternative perpetrator theory without evidence that connects them to it. So, so they started with the case law though, and that's actually the end of it, which is really funny. Just about, and essentially they're just saying relevancy. That's essentially what they're saying, right? Because 403. So the balancing test, relevancy, issues such as confusing the jury. And what do they mean by that? What they mean, they're giving all these different reasons, like your boilerplate reasons why. Remember, I always say, and it's not that me say, it's the law, right? In order for evidence to be admissible, it first has to be relevant. So one of the first ways to keep evidence out, right, is to argue to the court that it's not relevant. Because if it's not relevant, you don't need to take it any further than that, right? So again, when we're dealing with Rule 403, right here, undue delay, waste of time, confusion of the issues, cumulative. And so I don't know that cumulative would be applicable here, but the state says it. I don't think cumulative would be applicable, but basically the point being here that as far as this goes with the alternative perpetrator evidence, this is not talking about the DNA, the unknown DNA. This is talking about the tip line and tips that were called in. That's an interesting thought. Okay. Yeah. And it's funny. So we have not seen, I mean, I don't know. That's why I was asking the question, because we have not seen anything from the defense yet that like would indicate how they plan to use, like, I feel like never mind, just not have we seen it. I feel like even in the hearings, I just feel like it's not even really come up from the defense of like the tips that were called in. You know what I mean? I kind of forget it. I mean, feel like it's just not one of the more important things. Okay. Next up, we have we? Zoom in. So the next state's motion to eliminate for immediate family members in the courtroom. All right, so the court recognizes immediate family members, okay? And we're going to see a list here in a second as well. So the Idaho Constitution states a crime victim as defined by statute has the following rights: to be present at all criminal justice proceedings. Each victim of a criminal or juvenile offense shall be permitted to be present at all criminal justice proceedings. The statute extends the right equally to the immediate families of homicide victims. The legislature did not define immediate families in this section. Now, what's really funny is we kind of, for those of you guys who are following, speaking of Lori Vallow, following that case, this kind of came up with her, you know, Idaho again, right? And there was a unique situation there with Kay and Larry Woodcock, because, you know, they were going to be testifying, and Kay did. And so there's like the witness exclusionary rule, but normally if you're a victim immediate family member, then that does not apply. But it was a little bit tricky because while they were kind of the parents to JJ, they were all, they, strictly speaking, in terms of like what is the word? Blood? That's not the right word. Like the role that they had was like parents, but their actual relation was like, I can't even remember. It's like confusing. It's like great grandparent once removed or something complicated like that. Like great uncle, or I don't know. I'm lucky that in my family I don't have like weird, crazy. It's not that it's crazy, but it's pretty cut and dry. Parent, grandparent, cousin. I don't have like, you know, I don't have any step family members or like second cousins or things like that nature. So I have a harder time trying to remember how all that works. And that sounds crazy. I don't have any half siblings. So anyway, but basically it was this came up because there was a whole thing about what was going to work. Where are they going to draw the line? Like what counts as an immediate family member? What protections are in place? This just was a huge thing because, and the way they ended up kind of getting around it was Kay Woodcock testified first, so that then she could be present for the rest of the trial. And the state did not call Larry for that reason too. Welcome, James. I think we have a new squirrel friend. James, if you've been here before, welcome. I definitely don't think I've seen you in the chat before because I always remember everybody. Welcome back to Jack as well. So James, if you're new here, welcome. Like I said, happy to see you. Miss Q, welcome back as well. Right. That's good, Meg. So it looks like some of you guys know each other, which is not surprising. Two of the greatest legends, Twizzle and Meg. Yeah, they're here on the regs, yo. Yeah. For real. People who are here regularly also get to pick out their own custom command should they want one. Nightbot's putting some examples there for you guys. Okay. So, right. The legislature did not define immediate families in this section. Nonetheless, the legislature has defined it elsewhere. For instance, in Idaho code, immediate family member means a parent, mother-in-law, father-in-law, husband, wife, sister, brother, brother-in-law, sister-in-law, son-in-law, daughter-in-law, or a son or daughter. So this is exactly what I was getting at, right? Which is, how are they going to define it, right? Likewise, in Idaho code, that one, immediate family member means the spouse, children, brother, sister, mother, or father. Black's Law Dictionary defines immediate family member as 1, a person's parents, spouse, children, and siblings. 2, a person's parents, spouse, children, and siblings, as well as those of the person's spouse. I just have to say something that, funny that there's an Idaho case called State v. Payne, isn't it? Look, guys, look. I have to say something about my nephew, who I adore. So my nephew, who just turned 7, right before he turned 7, so this was beginning of January, I was not there because for those of you guys who remember when I lost my voice entirely and I had laryngitis, this was during that period. So I was not there, but the rest of my family went on a ski trip and I would have been on where I not sick, basically. And so my brother and his kids and everything, my mom. And so anyway, so my nephew was taking snowboarding lessons. And so he had never been snowboarding before, but whatever. So he was snowboarding. And so he had like his little class, the little friends and like the kids and whatnot, right? And they have a teacher. So like at the end of the whole trip, right after whatever, like a week, my mom was like picking him up from the little class. And she's like, so how did he do? And the snowboard instructor, who was like, I don't know, a younger, maybe like college age girl or whatever, said, I've never met anyone like this in my life. And my mom was like, what do you mean? And she said, well, here's what my nephew, I'm not going to say his name, but here's what he said to her. He said that right before the last day of class or whatever, he came up to her and gave her a big hug. And then he said, are you related to anyone by love? So it made me think of it because of what this says. And it's like, here's all these definitions. And I'm like, all I can think about is my nephew, who I love and adore, who asked that of somebody and said, are you related to anybody by love or through love? Beautiful, right? So, welcome back, Dean. Happy to see you again as well. So, okay. But you see how, like, that would surely broaden the definition, wouldn't it, in terms of legally speaking? So the state has attached a list of immediate family members the state believes should be considered victims by statute and therefore should be allowed to be present if they choose during the entire trial, regardless of whether or when they testify. Again, why does this matter? Like I just said, right, when I was giving the example for Lori Vallow, because normally there's a witness exclusionary rule, right? Are you guys following? Like, because this is really important. Like, normally with every trial, Murdoch would be an exception. There's witness exclusionary rules where, like, you can't be watching the trial on TV, you can't be in the courtroom until after you're done testifying. And then if you want to stay, you can. Okay. Unless they say that they want to keep you, unless they have not released you under subpoena, right? If they say, no, we might call them again, then you still can't watch, right? But if they say, yep, we've released, they're good to go, we release their subpoena, then they can stay and watch or whatever if they want. So if you're a victim's family member, right? And the state or the defense intends to call you to testify, what this would mean is that, except for this rule, right, it would mean that you can't be present for the trial or watch the trial on TV or anything until you're done testifying, which who knows when that could be. It could be weeks in or whatever, right? So the point of this is to say that if you qualify as a certain family member, that's the important part here, right? Immediate family member. Because again, whereas the law is always gray, area, right? So this is why who we define as immediate family member matters, right? So only if you qualify under the law as an immediate family member do you get an exception to the witness exclusionary rule. And again, the point being that then you can be present in the courtroom, or you can watch on TV if you so choose, right? But you don't have to worry about that witness exclusionary rule. You can be there, you can watch the trial, if you want to be there prior to testifying. Does that make sense? It's all good. You don't have to apologize. So I just want to make sure it makes sense for you guys, because you know how I am, right? Y'all know how I am. So, and the thing too, you guys, is that it's harder for me to read the chat when I'm reading these documents. I heard somebody else say this the other day too. Who was it? I can't remember. Somebody was like saying how like they really want to be able to read the chat, but maybe it was Andrea Burkhart. I don't know. But they were like saying how it's so hard when you're reading documents. It really is. I'm glad it's not just me, but it is a lot harder when you're reading documents, because you have to actually stop reading to like look at the chat. And like normally if we're watching a hearing or trial, I can watch both at the same time. But anywho, so you've not heard this case, Bryan Kohberger? What? I feel like that I must be misunderstanding something, because if you know everybody in here, or some of the people in here, I feel like that seems impossible. And if anyone's watching who does not know this case, let me know. Okay, so Twiz, you don't have to worry about it unless you just want them to adopt you. You're not being called to testify. This only matters for people that are also on the witness list. I mean, at least, yeah, you're not being called to testify. But see, you're not going to be called. Remember, we're going to be on the defense team. So, I mean, we're going to be there at the defense counsel table, right? Okay. So the state respectfully moves to an order in limine specifying immediate family members under State v. Payne and allowing those immediate family members to remain in the courtroom during the entirety of the trial. Okay, so now we're going to see the list. I love it when you get to see the exhibit stickers. So this here is who the state is saying immediate family members. Now, the fact that they have a list of this means that these are people that likely are also on the witness list. Otherwise, there's no need to mention them. The reason they've mentioned them is because they're on the witness list. And that's why it matters. So we've got Ethan's brother, Ethan's father, Ethan's sister, Ethan's mother, Kaylee's sister, mother, father, brother, and both grandparents, or both grandmothers, I guess, from either side of the family. For Xana, we have mother, sister, father. For Madison, we have grandmother, stepmother, stepsister, mother, stepfather, and father. Interesting. I wonder what happened to Maddie's mom. Oh, no, she's on there. Mother. There she is. Okay. And that's it for those. Okay. Next up, we have all right, states, zoom in. All right, states motion in limine, improper death penalty comments. All right. And let me just make sure I have my other ones pulled up here. Okay. All right. Okay, so it looks like James has a theory. Feel free to share. Miss Q is saying I demand Twiz to be called as a witness. Awesome. Well, I don't know. So I don't know why you're saying complete respect, but thank you. Awesome. We respect everybody here, and that's part of what the school crew does and is, and why I love the school crew. So can you be blue? I'm not sure what that means. No one's blue here. Oh, you mean like a mod? It's just me and Nightbot. Just me and Nightbot. We love Nightbot. So let me just put a couple things in the chat here. By the way, I will just, while I'm typing, since it's harder to do this while I'm reading, like I said, we have a really fun members only live stream coming up, our first members only live stream. It's going to be a law trivia night. I'm really excited. So I'm going to keep talking about it because I want to make sure everybody has a chance to hear that. And that way we can get all excited. And I'm designing my own trivia platform thing to make this happen because I knew what I wanted and it didn't exist. So I'm inventing it, as it were, making it myself, because that's how we do. Remind me who Adam is. I know I've seen that name before, but I don't remember who Adam is. I would say what? That's just me typing. Okay, so improper death penalty comments. Okay, this is a state motion in limine. All right, here we go. The state is moving the court for an order in limine prohibiting the defense from making any reference to the state, quote, attempting to kill, end quote, their client, Bryan C. Kohberger. So I want to just say there have been other channels, not going to name any names, but I'm sure there's more than even what I heard on inadvertently, I should add, that kind of felt a certain way about the defense filings where they, about the use of the term murder, right? We already covered these, but the use of the term murder, use of the term psychopath. I think the one about the use of the term murder got people more upset. Some people, I feel like those same people somehow overlooked this part, because this is the state not wanting the defense to use the phrase attempting to kill. Literally on a completely equal playing field, those two things, right? The state saying murder, he murdered so-and-so or whatever, murder on the murder weapon, same for the defense saying they're attempting to kill. It's, you see what I mean? So I don't know that I've heard anybody even really talk about this document at all. Doesn't mean they haven't, but it's interesting that this is what's here. The state does not want the defense to make any reference that the state is attempting to kill their client, which they are, though. They are, by definition. Works at the corner club. Okay, right. Thank you, Meg. Right, okay. Yeah, I can't remember what his deal is. I don't think I know a whole lot about him, but I know he's come up in something. I feel like you guys have talked about him before, maybe, but I don't know a whole lot about Adam. So, okay. So the state brings this motion based on defense counsel's repeated references to the state attempting to kill their client. On October 26th, exactly. That's exactly right. It's a capital case. It's the end goal for the prosecutor. Yep, surely is. Yep. The state brings this motion based on defense counsel's repeated references to the state attempting to kill their client. Okay. On October 26, 2023, defendant in his reply to state's objection to defendant's second motion to dismiss indictment, page 18, he states, the state has decided to attempt to kill Mr. Kohberger. On October 26, 2023, during oral argument on the defendant's motion to dismiss the indictment, defense counsel stated, this does not rise to what we would expect out. Oh, I'm sure that's supposed to say our government to do in this scenario where they are trying to kill one of us. Again, on January 25th, 2024, during oral arguments, defense counsel stated, particularly in a case where the state's decided that it wants to try to kill someone. And I remember them saying that, but I'm like, yeah, that is literally accurate. This is a death penalty case. You know what? Here's what I will say. Okay, I'm not going to get to, y'all know, some of you guys may have heard, I've heard me talk about the death penalty before. I'm just going to say briefly, if the state, any state, does not want the defense to comment, be it at a hearing or at trial, that the state is seeking the death penalty and therefore attempting, trying, or wanting to kill someone, one way around that would be to not seek the death penalty. Know what I mean? Well, that's one way around it. You could just not seek the death penalty, and then we wouldn't be having this discussion. Pursuant to 184004A, the state has filed a notice of intent to seek the death penalty. Well, there you go. Yep, right. See? Why are we confused, Santa? Hold on. Oh, boy. The thing is, you guys know how I feel about hypocrisy and all this. I can't. It's like literally being mad about it, but like, look, state, Santa, just trying to make myself laugh. I'm gonna try to make myself laugh so I don't get too mad. Because like government sanctioned killing, you know what I mean? Let's just take a quick 5-0 break. Yay, it worked. Yay. If Heather were here, she would be excited, but I'm doing this anyway because it'll make me laugh.
My friend Elizabeth is a mortician. She's the prettiest mortician I've ever met.
You guys, Andy's friend, the fucking mortician. What is happening?
I ate a lunch. Like, I had a whole delicious lunch.
Yep. All right. Okay. Oh yeah, Jennings, we got her as well. By the way, for those of you guys who are members, we have custom emojis. And every time people join, it lets me add more. I'm maxed out right now on the amount of emojis it'll let me add, but there's quite a few. So do take a look as well if you are a member or want to. But one of them is the groundhog. So, nope, it certainly does not detect a crime. And actually, I did an entire stream one time on the death penalty about the research about it. And I started actually making a list. Well, basically the point being that any of the pros that people think it has are actually factually not correct. And that the only actual reason for it, when you cross everything out from what it can be proven factually to be not correct, the only thing would be like some sort of emotional reason like vengeance or retribution. But in terms of like all the other purposes, it's not. It's all people are mistaken. I'm glad the lunch, right? Remember? Yeah. Oh, there's more where that came from, dude. Bible. Yeah, I think James, I think you're definitely you seem to know more about some of the other goings-ons in this case than I do, because I don't even know what some of this is referencing, but I'm sure some other people in the chat probably do. I don't know what the deal is with the where was it, golf clubs? I have no idea. I just don't know. Okay, so all right. Upon a finding of guilt, the state intends to provide statutory aggravating factors which could enable jury to impose the death penalty. This is the process laid out by Idaho law. Right, but you don't have to seek it though. Okay. Any other characterization, such as the statements, the quote, state is attempting to kill, end quote, only serves to inflame the passions of the jury. The statements are irrelevant, i.e. does not make a fact more or less probable, has no consequence in determining the action, to the issues before the jury, the guilt or innocence of the defendant on the charged offenses, Idaho Rule of Evidence 401. In addition, such statements carry the substantial danger of confusing the issues. Again, these same grounds that we just covered in one of the other documents here, the balancing test, yes. This is further supported by Idaho criminal jury instructions, which instructs the jury. Okay, so we're getting a little snippet here of the jury instructions, and we've gone over this previously, but yeah. Okay, so at the conclusion of the trial, you will decide whether the state has proved the defendant guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. Do not concern yourself with the subject of penalty or punishment. That subject must not in any way affect your verdict. And that's true. They say that with every case. And then there's that. So there must be something attached here. Oh, okay. These are the exhibits, but it's like like audio. Okay. Okay. All right. So that concludes the newest, or not the newest. Again, there's new ones coming in, which is why I wanted to wrap this one up, because then we'll have a new onslaught of documents starting tomorrow. Okay. So now we are on to defense. Motion in limine, vague and undisclosed expert testimony. This is motion in limine number 2. All right, so some of this, that's redundant. We're not going to read again because some of these start with like the same things. They're citing the same case law. A lot of it is going to be, and for good reason, right? So yeah, he incorporates all arguments and authorities contained, right? Of course. By the way, so the motion here, well, let me read this part for, okay. Mr. Kohberger hereby incorporates all arguments and authorities contained in his accompanying motion to preclude the death penalty. We covered this yesterday, day before, in the Motions in Limine Part 4 live stream. And for anyone who's new, I have a playlist for this case and all the other cases, trials I am covering, have covered, will cover, whatever. We've got tons of playlists. So there, if you're wanting to find everything related to a certain case, you can look at the playlists. But anyway, in Part 4, we covered this, okay? And we spent quite a bit of time breaking it down, especially the part where there's the comparisons to Lori Vallow. And again, for anyone who's new, I do really, really, really detailed timestamps. So that way, for you guys or for me, sometimes I need to go back and find something. It makes it easier. It's just how I am. I'm just overachiever like that, for sometimes to my own detriment. But I'm always glad I do the detailed timestamps. So they are finished already. So oh, too fast. Hey, I have to say something. By the way, I have to say something. So I want to say thank you to you, because I don't know that you've heard this. So the other day, Too Fast had an idea on one of I forget what we were covering, but Too Fast was saying something about trivia. Okay. And we were doing words that start with the letter Q, and it was really fun. Too Fast, you gave me the idea for our first members only live stream that I've now been working on. I've mentioned it a little bit, but I wanted to mention it with you here because you gave me the idea. And so I'm creating a way, okay? I'm a way that we can do this, and I'm making it myself because it didn't exist. So our first members only law live stream is going to be law trivia night. And so I just wanted to say thank you for giving me that idea, because that was brilliant. And in other live streams, we can just do a different theme. We can, but I thought this would be a great way to kick it off with the law trivia. So I just wanted to say thank you in case you hadn't heard that yet, that is going to be our first members only live stream. So, but also thank you. I'm glad you're here. We love having you, and we love hearing about the different foods that you're making and the weather and, getting washed down the drain and all of the things. I love everybody that's here. All of you guys are awesome. And I'm glad that you feel like you get to hear different perspectives. That's the point. That is the point. None of us ever learn anything in an echo chamber, right? We never learn anything in an echo chamber. In order to learn something new or to expand our horizons, we have to hear other things. We have to challenge our own perceptions and beliefs, and we have to be open-minded. So glad you like it. Yeah, it's going to be really fun. So I'm designing it, and I'm really excited. So I was working on that today, and as well as a million other things. And speaking of Lori Vallow, because again, now it's especially relevant here with the reference to this motion to preclude the death penalty, but I do intend to cover her hearing from today, where she had to argue hearsay exceptions, pro se. All right. So Mr. Kohberger requests exclusion and or limitation of the following expert testimony. So some of this actually we covered when it came up in other motions in limine, but some of this we haven't in terms of the people. So S1, Jenny Ayers, forensic scientist, testimony must be limited to only her work. So what is the point of this, right? Because it's the disclosure violations. So, and this was referenced again in that document we covered on Part 4. So right. Okay. So Jenny Ayers, forensic scientist, testimony must be limited to only her work depicted in Idaho State Police Forensic Laboratory Report 25 and her checklist of testing in Mr. Kohberger's apartment and office. She has not authored any laboratory reports expressing opinion. Any other testimony is outside of Idaho Criminal Rule 16, Idaho Rules of Evidence. Okay, basically, yeah, it's a problem, right? Because she's not submitted any other reports. Okay. Nick Ballance, guys, FBI Special Agent Nicholas Ballance. Testimony must be prohibited as no report containing findings or opinions has been produced. The only disclosures are 2 PowerPoint presentations. One is noted as a draft. The PowerPoint depicts information derived from cell tower data, shout to Twiz, call detail records, drive test data, and interpretation of the same. It is abundantly clear that in creating this PowerPoint, Special Agent Ballance used an unknown methodology. Oh my God, now I'm getting Karen Reed flashbacks to analyze and visualize certain data contained within the defendant's call detail records while omitting and ignoring other relevant data. Look at this right here. I'm sure Twiz is like having a field day. He's going to make a display. Sorry, he's going to make a DSPR. Inside joke. And bring it to the hearing on the 9th. I'm going to read this one more time, and then I'm going to pull something up. It is abundantly clear that in creating this PowerPoint, Special Agent Ballance used an unknown methodology to analyze and visualize certain data contained within the defendant's call detail records while omitting and or ignoring other relevant data. Okay, so I'm glad this is reminding me of things I was forgetting. Not that I forgot, but kind of. So, give me just a sec to pull this up. So some of you guys will be like, yeah, now I remember what you're talking about. I have been saying, I've been meaning to do another follow-up with shit related to the camera locations and the Elantra and all that. Okay. So I had some stuff. This was from a while ago. And then I forget what happened. Another trial. We watched maybe it was because of the Zachary Hughes trial. Anyway, so where is it? I have some videos that we haven't watched yet that I put together. Okay. I have 2 things I believe that we haven't watched yet. So give me just a second. Okay. Let me pull this one up. So, okay, here's the thing. The questions that I had been asking myself and you guys and everybody is like, what's the deal with the camera footage? Because the thing is this, that the cameras at Bishop Boulevard should have caught the Elantra. And so, you know, where the fuck did it go? So, you know, some of you guys have been here and seen kind of like what we've been doing with the maps and whatnot, right? Because we've mapped the fuck out of this. And so let me move this to a new window. So one of the things that I've done, and I was doing, was I've mapped it all out with where the cameras that the state says they see the car, right? Or the suspect vehicle one, right? And then I've looked, and we've done a lot of field trips, boots on the ground field trips type style, right? Where are the other cameras? And basically places that look like they should have cameras. So basically I took it upon myself to say, you know what is the deal? Like, is it just that nowhere out here has cameras like these other businesses or what? So I started actually calling around. This is going to be like, I made it kind of like a whole project and like, on how I could call these places up and get them to talk to me about their cameras. And I don't know, let me see if this is where this is at. So this is something that had to do with the I don't know that we actually need to watch this. Let me just see.
Enforcement relied on the Ridge Road footage to identify the vehicle.
What did they rely on?
What's the evidence that they relied on Ridge Road, which you say doesn't show anything? What's the evidence they relied on that to ID the vehicle?
They relied on the Ridge Road camera, and you can see that in the emails from IMO and the other law enforcement officers when they say they have Paradise Creek Road, and then they say we finally got a good one, and it produced to us is the 1125 Ridge Road footage and photograph.
All this means actually something different now, because now you've actually seen that, right? By the way, in the Discord, guys, in the Idaho v. Kohberger thread, DB, shout out to DB, did a really, really good graphic thing of an Elantra with the blurry vehicle that you can see in that still. And we've also been discussing that at length there as well. But he did a couple there. He actually did a couple things that were really, really helpful there. Definitely check that out. But it's really funny because we hadn't seen this until recently, but it was discussed here as far as 1125 Ridge Road.
And that's the only one that you can make a positive ID
Well, sorry, no, we're talking about, no, sorry, it would be the 1112 King, but I think they mentioned that here in a second.
on the car. If you want to go to the state's theory, right, with their videos that they've talked about, they told the magistrate about, that this is the video, this is what matters. It parks at this certain time, it leaves at this certain time. If you want to go to that, there's about 13 minutes of time, right? 13 minutes between the last time you see the car and the next time you see the car on the video. In the first AT&T warrant, in that affidavit, the police officer talks about 2:42 a.m. that WSU cameras, because they start looking at WSU cameras after the IGG identification, they find a white car that they say is an Elantra at 2:42. So they get the phone records, and then it becomes 2:44 that they say Mr. Kohberger's leaving his residence, 2:44 a.m. And the place near Bishop Boulevard where one could turn to go to Moscow at 2:42 is inconsistent with 2:44, but they don't correct that.
We're going to get into this.
They don't correct that. They don't say that vehicle at 2:42 cannot have been the right white Elantra running around that night, because we now know it was at 2:44 a.m. They want to keep that in there because they want the car positioned like it's going to be going to Moscow. You look at 1A, that's the map we looked at earlier today, where there's the whole loop around, but there's a blue line as if pointing the car towards Moscow, and that's not what happened.
All right, sorry, that's a good segue right there. Hold on. With each, you guys, some of you guys know how I've scrolled at these maps. With each sentence that she says, I'm like, wait, pause it here. And then I'm like, no. I can't just keep, and then I'm like, wait, pause it here, pause it here. I'm like, okay, I can't take it anymore. Because we haven't come back and gone over this in a bit because of all these documents. And honestly, now's a good time because it came up with Nick Ballance. Okay, so let me do this. I just have to unshare, reshare. I've been meaning to do this. We're going to do it right now. Because no time like the present moment, right, guys? Right here, right meow. Sorry. All right. Yay. Okay, so what are we looking at? So we have actual map with the cell tower map. Remember, the ones in red you can ignore because those are just like emergency towers. So of course I added these little pins here. That's obviously going to be BK's old apartment and then the house on King Road. Twiz map time, sorry. To now, I think you've been here before. Welcome back or welcome. I think you've been here before, so welcome back. So right. Yeah, literally just made that up right now. Okay. So twist map patent pending. Okay. So check it out. So we have, this was the original Twiz map. And what I did was I overlaid it, and don't worry, we're going to get to the PC map in a second. I overlaid it with this Google Earth, right? Because for me, I don't live there, right? And so like when I just simply see like the cell, I'm like, I have no idea what I'm looking at. I need Earth map, right? Okay, so now here's the triple, quadruple overlay. So now we've got all the possible routes. We've got the suggested routes from the state and from the defense, and then we have the yellow line, which is what Payne drew. Now, what's interesting is what you'll notice is in terms of, if you guys can see my mouse on the right, I know it's kind of hard to see, it's because there's all these overlays, but it was the only way, like what I was trying to figure out is what was Payne suggesting, right? Now, here's what's so interesting. If you look at this crappy yellow line, this is from the PCA, which I clarified this, by the way, it's actually crappier in real life. when you look at it, here's what's so fascinating. It matches up. Look how it matches up with actual roads up until you get to the bulge in the bottom right. Look at that. Isn't that wild? That's why this is so interesting. It matches up. So in other words, when he says here, this is a possible route based off cellular device location, it also says in the PCA, not to scale, right? What's wild is it's all, to me, it's like plausible deniability because it's clear he did match it up. He did match it up on purpose to a certain extent, right? Clearly, he took his little finger or whatever device and traced roads, right? And then when he got to down here, the bulgy part in the bottom right, it's like he couldn't make up his mind or whatever. So when you look at the blue line here, the dark blue, that's one possible, but then there's also the light blue, right? In other words, those are the roads. And then he did this yellow bit here in between, like splitting the difference essentially, right? But there's not an actual road there. Now it looks like there could be some sort of gravel road or private road, but it's not a throughway from what I could tell on Google Maps. So isn't that interesting? That's a good question. So Anne said that it couldn't have been the same Elantra running around that night. She's saying that it was an Elantra. That's a good question. That is a good question. My interpretation of that is it did sound like she was conceding there was an Elantra. That's a really good question and a good thing to point out. It couldn't have been the same Elantra running around that night. Right, correct. So that does sound like she's conceding that there was an Elantra, but there's more than one. That's how I would understand that. But thank you for that. That's a really good question. Okay, so next map. So now, if you guys can see, I've taken this overlay with the PCA crappy ass map, right? So you can still see the yellow line there. Now I've added the cell tower locations. Remember, the red is emergency, so don't worry about those. Now this is their locations. We're going to get to their coverage here in a minute. Okay, remember the loop-de-loop we just heard Ann Taylor reference? Remember when she said the loop around? The loop around? I call it the loop-de-loop. That's right here, if you guys can see it. So what we're looking at, this is a close-up. So we have Northeast Stadium Way, and then it sort of ends there right where you get to the main drag, and then to the purple, that would be if the car took a right, that's the defense theory. And then to the left, that'd be the state's theory. And then we have a loop-de-loop here, as you can see. And that's the loop-de-loop that is so interesting. We spent a lot of time field tripping that out because it's about 9 minutes, I believe, that the suspect vehicle 1, right, would be doing the loop-de-loop. And what we realized is where all the dorms are. And that, to me, it looked like, it was interesting. We've gone through that at length, but that's the loop-de-loop. But the point that is so important is once the suspect vehicle 1, comes out of there, takes a left, and then it comes to this intersection, right? Where you can see there's the Zoe's Coffee and Kitchen. Which direction does the car go? Now, this is zoomed out a little bit further. So what I did was I added the towers, the actual physical tower locations. And if you guys can see, this was crazy. So I took these, if you guys can see the teal looking tower thing, here's what I did. That is an actual 5G tower. I know it looks like it's a fake. It's an actual 5G tower. I had it colorized so we could see it because otherwise it's just gray. It's an actual 5G tower that I colorized so you guys can see it. So what I did was I took the cell tower mappy thing and I took the regular maps and basically I plotted these exactly where they are so that you can actually see where the cell towers are, like as if you were there in real life, like, oh, there's where a cell tower is, right? So we're going to see where they're located and we're also going to see what they cover. So there's 3. Now this is important because these come up in the hearings, right? So there's one down here at the bottom near Bishop Boulevard. And then there's one up there on the top right. And then there's one on the left. And you can see that what's interesting is there's that one there on the left, right? Well, what do we know? Well, that purple route, remember, that's the defense theory. So we've got 3 towers, essentially. The point here being there's 3 towers that are in the immediate vicinity of what is maybe one of the biggest points in question that we know of at this juncture in terms of the car, which is which direction did it go when it got to this intersection, purple or blue? That's what it comes down to. Because for the most part, there's not a whole lot of discrepancy in terms of the route back. This is what matters right here. That's why there's so much about this. Which direction was the car facing? What time? Purple or blue? So that's why these 3 cell towers, those are the ones that are in this vicinity. What's DD? Sorry, I'm just looking at the chat. What's the DD? Okay. Drunk driver, designated driver. I don't know what DD is. Okay. So then actually that part's we don't need. That's the geofence. Okay. So now this is, again, this is zoomed out. So remember purple is going to be the defense theory. Blue is the state. And now we've zoomed out. So what it is we're however much we're zoomed out, all of the cell phone towers that are physically located in that area that we're able to see are here on this map. So what you can see is for such a huge area, here's how many cell towers there are. So remember how, let me go back. I just want to show you guys why this matters. Check it out. Here's what you get otherwise. Let me just go back to the original fucking thing. Okay, here we go. Here's what you get otherwise. This. How helpful is this? To me, not very helpful. Especially because the red towers don't matter and you don't know, I have no reference for what the fuck this is. So that's why I made the other ones like this, right? And with all the different levels of zoomed in and zoomed out so you can figure out where we're at on the planet, right? So these are where the towers are located in real life. Okay. Now zoomed out even further. Again, purple's the defense theory, blue is the state. And they both are in agreement once you get to like the Uniontown bit here, that in terms of the I guess Bryan Kohberger, I guess I'm saying Bryan Kohberger because the defense would say after going through the park, right, that this is the way he traveled back. In other words, there's no really discrepancy. Once you get to this Uniontown and then you're going back up to Pullman, everything that's really seems to be in discrepancy is what happened prior to that. Oh, DoorDash, right. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Gotcha. Okay. And now we're zoomed out even further. And we've got, so as we zoom out more, we have more towers. But these are all the towers that exist physically for this entire amount of land or what have you. Okay. So now we're looking at what the cell towers cover. So this is this tower here. You guys have heard Twiz talk about this. This tower here, Lewiston. So there is the range that it covers. And as you can see, right, the shaded area is what it covers. And it goes all the way up to Moscow. So in other words, let me go back one. The tower that we're looking at there for coverage, if you go all the way down to the bottom, I don't know if you guys can see my mouse. Down at the bottom where it says Lewiston, there's this tower here. See how far the fuck away that is from Moscow? That's the tower we're looking at here. It covers all that. Now, but here's the other thing. There's another tower. Okay, that's a zoomed out version. What you can see is the coordinates and all that. Okay. But then there's this one, which is crazy because this is like even more so. So this tower is the tower at Paradise Ridge Road. See the approximate address? So this is what's wild to me because this tower is actually close to the house. Close, I mean, it's in Moscow, right? But look at how much it covers all the way down to like the Lewiston area. So let me go back one more. There's that. Now, what I want you guys to notice is this. They are the exact same amount of zoomed out. Pay attention to the roads and stuff and the other things that are on the map. I did this on purpose so that there would be no confusion as to how great the area it covered was. So for as large of an area that this tower covers, right? They're the exact same amount of zoomed out. Watch as I go to the next one. You'll see that everything's the same except the shaded area. Watch. See? They're the exact same amount of zoomed out. But look at how much more this tower covers. Like that's insanity. That's insane. So the main difference as far as this can, what might make a difference here. So this one covers more to the left. Right? If you're looking at if you can remember where the little, like when we looked at the map with like the different routes, right? So, and then this one is a little bit more covers more to the right, but goes for like, that's just wild though to me. So this is the Paradise Ridge Road Tower. So that's the cameras before we get to the cameras. So the Paradise Ridge Road Tower. Hold on. I'm missing. No, I'm not missing it. I just went past it. There's another one. Fuck. Okay, so the Paradise Ridge Road Tower is the one that is up top there. We're above Moscow. That's the Paradise Ridge Road. Up at the very top. Okay, now what are we looking at? Now we're getting to the cameras. So this is plotting the route back. Now, notably, when you look at the master timeline that we've put together, which is in the Discord, the suspect vehicle 1 is caught way more times on cameras coming back than it is leaving, even though it's the camera. If the cameras have the footage, shouldn't it have the footage both ways, right? And the suggested route is the same both ways, at least as it pertains to getting up to that main intersection. Now, but that's the thing, is like, it doesn't, you see how it's like, okay, look at all the red dots, like on, wish I could like, okay, let me zoom in. Okay, here we go. This is a good way to do it. All these red dots on this blue line, that's all of the times that the Elantra is caught on camera. This would be the route back, right? So like 5:42 a.m. or something. It's not caught at those same cameras leaving, which is interesting. It is caught. Now there's a red dot. Can you guys see my mouse right here? That's where the loop-de-loop is. It is caught on camera there, again, prior to the homicides. But the other red dots where it's caught there coming home, it's not leaving. It's not caught on camera leaving. So I don't know. I mean, there's a lot that doesn't make sense with that. So the orange, what is the orange and why is it orange? The orange is, this is a really crucial part. This is the intersection with Main Street and Bishop Boulevard where it should be on camera. The orange matters. Remember, so now all these red dots, look at where Johnson Road is, or Johnson Road. Those red dots, those are, according to the state, where the car is caught on camera, again, on the way back after the homicides, tons of times, millions of times. And then the orange dot is the big problem here, where neither time, either prior or after the homicides, do they have camera footage here. And they should, if the state's theory is correct, they should have it on camera both directions, right? They should have it on camera both directions because the state's theory is it went through that intersection both times. So that's the orange, is they should have it and it's missing. So now we get to the phone calls, because this is where I was like, well, hang on now. And thanks for the super chat, James. You're more than welcome. You're I'm rambling. It's what we do. So okay. So what I did was I was like, well, remember, part of the thing was like, well, maybe they didn't check in time, right? And this is the state. This would be a state controlled camera versus these other red dots are like privately, or through the university or whatever, right? But what I thought was, I was like, well, and we've talked about it before. I was like, well, there's other businesses and other places surrounding this camera in question where the orange dot is. Do they have any camera footage? Would they? Did they? What's the dealio, right? Because we've not heard much about that. We've heard like they've been questioned. The state's been questioned about attempting to get camera footage from some of the other places over there, like in Moscow. But the places that I think are important, I have not really heard talked about. So, and now there's another zoomed out version. Or is that the same thing? Oh, that's zoomed in. Oh, right. What I wanted to show here is that when it comes to actually getting back home to the apartment, the thing that they don't know, he could have gone, not that it matters, I'm just saying, he could have gone either, when you see the circly thing up there at the top, could have gone to the right or to the left. The point here was the last time that the car was caught on camera, and I think, again, at this juncture, everyone would be in agreement that this is him at this juncture. This is on the way back, right? Is that top red dot there where, if you guys can see that, let me zoom in. This is the last camera where the car is captured up here. But then after that could have gone to the right or to the left to get back to the apartment complex, if that makes sense. Aaron Caffey. Why does that name ring a bell? I feel like I went to school with someone named Aaron Caffey. That's probably not who you're talking about. Probably different. So, okay, so now we're going to watch a fun video. Wait, no. Yes. Now we're going to watch a fun video where I called local establishments to see what I could find out. So what? Let me just unshare, reshare. Oh, wait, I just added it and then I got rid of it. That's not what I meant to do. Oh my God. Hold on. All right. So here's what it is. So this is recordings of me calling people. Now, sometimes I got more information than others, but what you're going to see while I'm calling is what you're looking at is the place I'm calling. So look at where the arrow is. So I'm calling, ring-a-ding-ding. That arrow is pointing at the place I'm calling, which is that gas station. Now, where is that? That's Stadium. Okay. You guys are probably already know exactly what intersection you're looking at, but we've got the man shop over there. I called them and they did not want to talk to me. Actually, I need to set this up with something. Where's my script? I had a whole script. So I wanted to show you guys this first, actually. Where is it? Did I delete it? Hold on. Let me see if this is it. I don't see it. What did I do with it? Oh my God. So, okay. Well, basically, that sucks. I didn't save it apparently. So I had a whole script of, look at, here's what I did. What I did was this. I knew that if I just called up and started asking questions about the cameras, no one would talk to me. Right. And so what I did was I researched if somebody was like a college student or whatever, and if they were doing a survey for like a college class on like communications or whatever, what questions would be asked. That would be like if you're being like, hey, I'm doing a survey about like about surveillance cameras, like why you use them and if you use them and da 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 da. And I came up with like a list of sample questions and I actually had it all typed up. I thought I saved the document, but apparently I didn't. I had it all typed up of like a question and answer so that I could ask them these questions in a manner that they would answer, basically. And so you're going to hear me ask some of these questions. Sometimes I didn't need to go by the script because they answered something preemptively or whatever. But anyway, I was going to show you guys the script, but apparently I didn't save it. So I had a script, I had a list of questions, and I was going down the list, calling different places. So here's some of the phone calls that happened where people talked to me, and here's what they said. And again, you're going to see a visual of the place I'm calling. Hello? Hi, I'm just calling for a survey I'm doing in one of my communications classes, and I was just wondering if you just have a quick second to answer a couple questions about your usage or lack thereof of surveillance cameras.
And the uses of surveillance cameras?
Yeah, just like if you guys have them and what are the reasons you have them, things of that nature.
Oh yeah, we have them.
Okay, so what is the primary reason for using surveillance cameras at your location?
We kind of just use them to, I mean, it's probably more like a deterrent.
Okay, that was actually going to be one of my follow-up questions. Okay, for sure.
So kind of more like to keep, just like to say, oh, we got a security camera,
right,
just in case you do think about stealing.
So, how often are the cameras reviewed and updated?
The cameras are updated on a pretty much as like any time we feel like it needs an update.
Okay.
They're like they're brand new a month ago.
Oh, okay.
That's how recently we updated them.
Okay.
and we review them every time we have like a suspicion of something going on.
Mm-hmm. Okay. How long is I'm pausing it to say something real quick. One of the things I needed to make sure I figured out how to do, and you guys, so that when I ask this question, I want you guys to understand why I'm asking certain questions. There's a reason. I needed to make sure that whoever I was calling was answering questions about exterior cameras, because they probably have both, right? Or they might have only interior only. But I needed to make sure that I asked a question that would specify exterior cameras in a way that didn't seem, again, like I'm calling about this case or whatever, right? So when you guys hear me ask a question about, well, I think I ask it different ways to the different places, but it's something along the lines of like, what if there's a fender bender in your parking lot, type things of that nature. Just know that the reason I'm asking that question is to make sure that I'm clear if they're talking about exterior versus interior cameras, because sometimes it was unclear what they were talking about. So is the surveillance footage typically stored on your system?
On our system, it's stored for a month.
A month, okay. And so what procedures?
I think it's even more like 60 days on ours.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And so what procedures are in place for reviewing camera footage in case of an incident? Say there was like a fender bender in the parking lot or something like that.
So if there's ever like a fender bender or something like that, that has nothing to do with us, usually an officer will come in and see if they could view our cameras, or if they could get out. Sometimes they give us like certain times and dates they want footage of, so then we could just put it on a USB for them.
Okay. And yeah, that's actually going to be one of my other questions here. How do you handle requests for footage from law enforcement or other third parties? But I think you've already answered that question. So how satisfied are you with the overall performance of your surveillance camera system? Okay. I ask this to everybody, and here's why. Because this is actually something that with all the research I did, and I actually went to the actual specific classes that they offer at WSU, and I looked into this, and like one of the things like that you would be asking this question. So this is like the only question that I ask that doesn't actually pertain to helpful for our purposes. But the reason I ask it is, again, just in case they're like, who are you? And are you, this is the question that would be like, oh, okay, right? You guys see what I mean by that? This was the question that I threw in there that isn't actually really helpful for us, but it validates why I'm calling, if that makes sense.
We're actually pretty good. We're pretty satisfied with our new ones, yeah.
And do you think it's been effective at deterring?
I
did. He initially said 30 days, but then he said, no, actually, I think it's longer. And then I think he corrected himself and said 90 days. But I ask everybody that. I ask how long does the footage stay? Criminal activity?
Yeah.
Okay. Hold on, let me back it up. I forget what question I was asking.
We're actually pretty good. We're pretty satisfied with our new ones.
You're satisfied. And do you think it's been effective at deterring criminal activity?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, cool. That's all the questions I have for you. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, no problem.
All right. Thanks. You have a good one.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. Bye. All right, so now we're on to the next one. Again, the red arrow is pointing to the place that I'm calling. Now, this place was really important. So this place is, okay, let me tell you what you're looking at. In the blue circle there, that's WSU. So this is Johnson turning on to Bishop. So let me see. Can I pull my map up? Hold on. Hang on. Let me go back. Let me pull this up so that you guys see exactly what we're looking at here. I need the red dots. Where's the red dots? Okay. Okay. Hold on. Let me unshare reshare. I hate that StreamYard makes you do this, but it's whatever. Okay. It'd be great if I could seamlessly go between. Oh my God. Okay, there we go. So where we're looking at, remember the orange dot is where there should be camera, but there's not camera. Like where there is a camera. What I mean is there's no car on camera. So where I'm calling, okay, is see all those red dots on Johnson there? Where I'm calling is right at that intersection of Johnson and Bishop. Okay. Because, or actually, So I plotted, fuck, now I can't remember. I actually plotted, I think they give in one of the documents, they give the addresses of where they see the car. So I was right. Okay, now I'm remembering, because here's the thing. So where the car was seen on Johnson, like whatever, it's once we get the Bishop, like towards Bishop. So basically, I'm trying to call places that could give us information in lieu of where the orange dot is, right? So I was looking at places that were close to that. So where this is, let me pull it back up. Yeah, you can see Bishop and Johnson. Yeah, let me pull this back up. So, okay. Yeah, you can see there Johnson, and you can see if can I zoom in? No, I can't zoom in because of the video. But anyway, on the sign, it says Bishop. So this is like an auto place. But the point being, you can see how close it is to that intersection at Stadium, because there's WSU right there circled. And Heather's here. Whee! Welcome back, Rolo. Who's yelling? Who's yelling? Oh, that's funny that your phone tried to say foot job. Love that. Wonderful. Oh, you were talking to Heather coming in. Okay. You guys are funny. Okay. So, okay. So now I'm calling this place.
Imported car service, Carl speaking.
Hi, Carl. There it is. Imported whatever service. By the way, I will note he was kind of leery, rightfully so. I understand initially when I called. So you're going to hear, I believe, him ask me a question because he's kind of not sure who he's talking to. Okay.
Imported car service, Carl speaking.
Hi, Carl. I'm just I'm conducting a survey for a communications class that I have at school. And I was just wondering if you could just answer a couple quick questions for me about y'all's use.
What school do you go to?
Washington State University.
Okay, so you're local. Okay, yeah. So I'll take a minute.
Yeah, it'll just take a second. It's just a couple questions about if you guys use any type of like surveillance cameras on the premises, and if you're happy with your system and that sort of thing. So if you've got about 10 seconds.
We do not right now. I have seriously considered it, and I actually recently have put them on my home out in the country. So. Okay. But at the moment I don't, but I think it'd be a really great idea.
Okay. Well, then that's the only question I have for you. I appreciate your time.
You bet. You take care.
Thanks. You too. Bye. So this is where I'm recording it through the phone. So it probably sounds different than the computer, which would make sense, right? Like this was I recorded the phone call through the phone, like while I was on the phone. So I don't know. I guess it probably sounds different, but yeah. And so the reason he was asking us because my area code is 336, but college kids come from out of state all the time. So, okay. So now I'm calling the next place, which is the Green Nugget. Again, so now here's what's interesting. So where the red arrow is, that's the place I'm talking to, the Green Nugget. Now where the purple arrow is, I forget what it's called. That's a restaurant right behind it. I called that place and everyone I spoke with was just like either not the smartest person or pretended like, we don't know. It was kind of useless, but I learned that they have cameras, but they didn't know anything other than that. That's the purple arrow. But the red arrow is who I'm talking to now.
Thank you for calling Green Nugget Pullman. How can I help you?
Hi, I'm just conducting a survey for a communications class I have at school, and I was just wondering if I could ask you a couple quick questions about if you guys use any type of surveillance cameras, or if you don't, and then it'll take about 30 seconds.
We do.
Okay. All right. Awesome. The first question I have is just what is the primary reason for using surveillance cameras at your location?
We deal with a lot of money.
Okay. That's a good reason. They deal with a lot of money. Is weed legal there? I don't even know. Okay. And how long is your surveillance footage typically stored?
That I'm not too sure. Our big person that usually is in charge of all that usually takes control of that up in our Spokane store.
Okay, gotcha. Okay. And what procedures are in place for reviewing camera footage if there's been some sort of an incident? For example, like something happened on the premises.
I would contact that person I was just talking about.
Okay.
And, we'd sit down.
Gotcha. And are you, do you believe that the surveillance cameras have deterred criminal activity or other unwanted behavior?
Well, you'd like to think so.
Yeah, or I mean that's for sure. And how many cameras do you currently have installed?
Off the top of my head, I'd say around 12 to 14.
Okay. A lot. Okay. And how satisfied are you overall with the performance of the surveillance camera system?
I'd say they've been, pretty nice. Like you said, there's been, times where they're like, yeah, when people see them, they, like to kind of mind their own.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And I think that's the only questions I have for you then. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, of course.
All right.
Have a good one.
You too. Bye. I think that's the last one that I had on there. So, so what I was going to say is so communications is actually the subject at school that this is falls under, right? This is I know it sounds silly, but I didn't make that up. Communications is if you're a communications major, one of the classes that you're taking, again, I went to the WSU and I looked at all their courses, and it's the same in other schools as well. A lot of what you're talking about is this falls under that umbrella. So one of the classes that they would take if you're a communications major is you're going to be learning about, literally the shit that I'm doing. I guarantee people really do for school. But so Heather's asking, did I just, well, kind of, I had a list of places that I thought were especially important given the locations that we don't have cameras for, right? To confirm or deny which direction the car was going here. Because again, according to the state's theory, should have passed through Bishop Boulevard intersection twice. And I had done research into what classes are offered at WSU and what they cover, and given what they cover, what would be a sample study or survey that you would do for those classes, and then a list of sample questions that you would ask if you were actually conducting a real survey. And I basically pared that down to the top 6 or 8 questions that could actually be relevant for finding out information about the cameras in this area. But I threw in an extra question or two that would just be again, how satisfied are you with your camera footage, or surveillance? Again, because I'm not trying to make anybody be afraid of whatever. So, so you said, I don't doubt that they call and ask, who's they? Right. And so that's the thing, right? Because I figured that some of these places probably get calls asking about this case, right? And that's why I knew that going into it. And I was like, look, I can't just call on it, right? I have to have a plan. And I mean, it worked. The only place that hung up on me right away was the man shop. And then as far as the place with the purple arrow, they talked to me, but it was just the girls just sounded like they were really ditzy and didn't know anything, basically. And they didn't have a manager available or whatever. So, yeah. By the way, I was thinking about it more too with the eyebrow thing, the one eyebrow. I was thinking about this, and I do think it's entirely possible. I reread it again. She doesn't say unibrow. She says eyebrows, but then it's an eyebrow. But I thought about it and I was like, you know what? It's entirely possible that the reason she said that is because if you think about somebody and you see their profile, they're sideways, they're not facing you, you would only see one eyebrow, right? So I think it could go either way. I think that's one of those things they could ask her about, right, when she testifies. but yeah. Okay, so now we're going to go back to the other thing, the video here. Okay.
They then report the phone stops reporting to the network at 2:47 a.m. And that's not right. We submitted their cell experts report that say the phone stops reporting at 2:54 a.m. We submitted 2 affidavits to you from our experts who have worked with the call detail records, and that's just not right. Don't get caught up in thinking 7 minutes don't matter here. We're talking about ground that can be covered in a vehicle in a short time. We're talking about 2 towns that are fairly close together. And so the way a car points when they go off the network matters a whole lot in this circumstance. That's not corrected in any of the affidavits. That's the part that's really exculpatory.
That's one of the things we were talking about. So yeah, so okay, she does say, I mean, but one thing I'll say is this though, right? Is like, in other words, if you're the state, you're gonna hope you can get her to say on the stand that when she said an eyebrow, she meant from the side. Like that's, you know what I mean? I don't know what you're talking about, Rolo. I'm sorry. With somebody, I don't know who you're talking about there. What's not right, Meg?
To Mr. Kohberger is what direction, when the phone stops reporting to the network, what direction is the car traveling? And you can know that based on the cell towers, the handoffs from tower to tower as it tracks where a phone's going. The FBI knows how to do this. They chose not to do this. They chose to.
Now we're getting, see, now it's all coming full circle. For anybody who's like, where are we? Is this all coming? Do you guys remember where we were? We were at Nick Ballance, FBI, cell towers. This is all coming full circle. This is exactly why I was like, you know what? Now's the opportunity to revisit this stuff.
Towers, the handoffs from tower to tower as it tracks where a phone's going. The FBI knows how to do this. They chose not to do this. They chose to take a time 7 minutes before it really stopped reporting. And they chose to make a map that showed a direction that phone wasn't traveling in to create a false narrative. Moscow has, I think, 2 cell towers that service the town.
And the video that is clear, well, they take issue with that video because, and specifically, we're talking about 1125 Bridge Road. Because they say, well, that can't be surveillance video of the white Elantra, even though it was caught on video about 0.3 miles from the crime scene, about 3 minutes right before when we see the suspect vehicle enter the area of the crime scene, which 0.3 and 3 minutes appear to be the amount of time it would take the vehicle to travel to the area of the crime scene. They say, well, that can't be the right video because if it were, then the surveillance right up the street would have also caught this video, which confirms that the surveillance camera that was set up to capture motion would not have captured the corner the defendant says must have been necessarily captured.
Is it possible to tell from the affidavit what shots and what cameras were relied upon to make the identification?
Okay. Hang on.
It's reporting to the network.
Okay. I'm trying to find something here real quick. So hold on. Okay. So okay. All right. Did I? Paradise Creek Street. So let me pull up my mappy thing. So this tower, oh wait, so this tower, okay. I see. This tower is at Paradise. Okay, you guys remember this one? Hold on. So this tower. So this tower is at Paradise Ridge Road. So remember how we talked about this one, how it's like covering this entire huge ass area. So Paradise Ridge Road. There it is. Okay. That's this tower. That's this tower right here. So okay. So basically it's like 11 or 9 minutes essentially from the house, just to get an idea of that specific tower that services all that huge area. Now remember the other tower that services this entire area. So the point being there's two towers that service Moscow and Lewiston. That's the point. One is in Moscow and the other is in Lewiston, right? That's the point. If we go back to this, hang on. You guys see what I mean? So this tower, right, services is in the Lewiston area, but services all the way up to Moscow. This tower is like in Moscow and services Moscow and all the way down to Lewiston. You see what I mean? Yeah, I know it is. So the cell tower map puts it at Paradise Ridge Road. Now there is the Paradise Creek, but that is somewhere else. Where was that? Let's see. There's Paradise Creek Street, which is I believe that's where the other, hold on, let me see, other tower. Yeah, the Paradise Creek Street is the other tower that's closer to the house. So if I go to, let me share this, hold on. It is confusing because there's so much Paradise shit happening here. All right, so this is Paradise Creek Street. So look at how small of an area, but that's the tower that is physically closest to the house. Now, if I click on this tower, this is the other one that is also close to the house. Remember how there's two towers that are like really close to the house? Now, look at the small area they serve, right? Those are the two towers that are just closest to the house. So you've got, just to reiterate, you got Paradise Creek Street, and then we got, they don't have an address phone. And then over here, now this is the, look at that. That's the Paradise Ridge Road. And this is the one, the big one, right? That covers all this. I have to zoom way the fuck out and goes all the way down well below Lewiston. Like that's insane. Oh my God. Don't do that. That's annoying. Oh my God. Why are we looking like that? Okay. Someone didn't make it out of the creek. Who didn't make it out of the creek? I remember who was that? Was that somebody in the squirrel crew said they went swimming in the creek? Right. Now I don't think that, I don't remember anybody saying they think the car went on there. Okay, so if his cell was only using band 17, there would only be 2 towers that connect to his phone. Band 17. Let me see. So, oh my God, let me zoom in. I think that's correct too, Fast. I think that's correct. Because this is 17. And then let me go down. Wait, that's not the right one. I need to zoom out. That's not, what am I looking for? Okay, wait, let me just pull it up this way. This is easier. Hold on. Okay. This is the easier way. So this one, Lewiston, so this tower does band 17, 12, 14, 17, 30, 66. And then this one does 2, 4, 5, 12, 14. So what numbers do those two have in common? That's a good question. So 12, 14, 12, 14, 30, 66. 12, 14, 30, 66. So band 17 would be this tower. Not this tower. This tower. Okay. This is what it's going to come down to. Of course, are we back to that song? You used to call me on the cell phone. I know when the hotline ring. That one. Type. I don't know what you're talking about here. On the phone. I mean, I'm not like, if I did that on my phone, it would probably show me for stuff where I live, right? I'm not quite sure. So as far as the maps go, I've been working on this for long before. Like, what happened is this. Heather was the first person to mention Twiz. So I was working on all this stuff with the cell phones and the maps because obviously. And then Heather kept saying, you have to meet Twiz or whatever, something along those lines. I'm sure she'll elaborate, right? She kept referencing Twiz over and over again. And I'm like, well, I don't know who Twiz is. I have not met Twiz, But like, that's why she kept saying Twiz, because I was talking about this stuff, right? And so then Twiz joined us. Okay. Right. And the thing is though, that's not helpful for me though, because I live in North Carolina. Twiz is the map. Literally, that's what she kept saying. That's exactly what she kept saying. Yep. So band 17, let me go back to the other thing. See, I just get disoriented when I don't have the overlays. Like, that's the thing. I just get disoriented. I'm like, I don't know what I'm looking at anymore. I can't tell how zoomed in or out it is unless I have the overlays, and it's really annoying, which is why I made the maps the way I made them. Like, I don't know. Oh my God. Like, I'm looking at the thingy. Oh my God. I'm just completely lost in the world right now looking at this mappy thing over here. Literally. So band 17, I thought, where the fuck is this? I don't even know what state I'm in. I'm looking at something else that you guys are not looking at, by the way. I'm looking at the cell tower thing because I'm lost. I don't even know what the fuck. It just decided to, I don't even know what it decided to do. I have no idea. Okay, well, it's good. It's all good. So, right. Yes, thank you. No. Yeah, no, it was a really good observation. Too fast. That band 17. Okay. You notice a 17 in Pullman. Interesting. Okay, good. Let me go back to my maps here, where I have it. Let's see here. Let's do it. Let's see if we go this way. That was a good observation. Now remember, the ones that are in red don't count because those are emergency. So it's more helpful when it's the hold on. Okay. So see, and again, because they're all overlapping, it's like not so helpful. And there they are. Okay. Yeah, so this tower does service band 17. As you can see there. Now this one doesn't. Interesting. Yeah, interesting. Okay, so now we're going to go back to the document that we were initially on. Let me pull. Okay. We were here. So okay. So we were here. And it's still highlighted. Look at that. Love that, right? Balance, Nick Balance. So in it is abundantly clear that in creating this PowerPoint, Special Agent Ballance used an unknown methodology, flashbacks to read, to analyze and visualize certain data contained within the defendant's call detail records while omitting and or ignoring other relevant data. It is impossible to determine why certain data was included in the PowerPoint while other data was omitted/ignored, as Special Agent Ballance has produced no report documenting his actual analysis. The omitted/ignored data referenced above is exculpatory evidence in Mr. Kohberger's defense. The call detail records in full provide partial alibi corroboration. As such, the complete lack of disclosure as to any opinion and or report addressing this issue from Agent Ballance makes it impossible. So let me back up. Okay, the call, Twiz, what do you think about this? The call detail records in full provide partial alibi corroboration. I mean, I guess that's referencing the fact that there's that gap, right? Now, having said that, one thing that was interesting that we thought about on a different live stream was like, if I feel like there was in one of the documents, they mentioned that he was taking pictures, right, of the sky or whatever, or taking pictures like out there. But that would come from Celebrate, right? And those would be time stamped. So, while that would not be the call detail record contributing to an alibi, I mean, that would definitely be something else that you could use to establish your whereabouts, right? They're still not using the timing data. Okay, I thought it was in one of the filings, or maybe it was set out, or maybe it was in a hearing. I just feel like that was set at some point by the defense. I'm pretty sure. Does anybody else remember? I don't know why y'all are so concerned with what Steve is doing. Seems like just a waste of time and energy, in my personal opinion. So the call detail records in full provide partial alibi corroboration. As such, the complete lack of disclosure as to any opinion and or report addressing this issue from Agent Ballance makes it impossible to anticipate what he may testify to as an expert on this matter. If in its expert rebuttal disclosures, the state provided a summary of Special Agent Balance's proposed testimony. Portions of the summary are in direct conflict with his previous PowerPoint disclosures, further complicating Mr. Kohberger's guesses that what his testimony may be. Mr. Kohberger's expert, Cy Ray, has conducted a detailed analysis of Special Agent Balance's PowerPoint and found severely flawed findings that are well outside of established and known best practices in the field. The PowerPoint is vague and makes it impossible to determine what Special Agent Balance is claiming. Thus, the additional summary does not remedy the lack of disclosure, leaving Mr. Kohberger in an inability to prepare and meet the constitutional protection of confrontation. Testimony must be prohibited pursuant to Idaho Criminal Rule 16, Idaho Rules of Evidence, the court scheduling order, and Mr. Kohberger's federal and state constitutional rights of fair trial, confrontation, and a due process. S3 and S4, Mr. and Mrs. Barnhart. Who are they? Testimony must exclude everything other than specifically disclosed, including purported habit evidence. State has not produced a report saying what habits are referred to. No expert opinion has been disclosed. Mr. Kohberger cannot prepare to confront purported evidence against him that is undisclosed. Does anybody know who these people are? Tonka says he thinks he's done with this case. Well, I hope that's not my fault. I hope there's nothing I did that makes you feel done with it, although I understand if you're frustrated with this case, because you're not alone there. But we're going to see it through. Some of these cases are hard, but we're going to see it through. I think one of the things, guys, we have to remember, I think it's more frustrating. Well, this is my opinion. I think it can be more frustrating when you're trying to figure things out, like the question of what happened, what really happened. At this juncture, because as I've said before, I'll just reiterate it, we have like basically no information in this case. We're getting a little bit more, but we really don't have much information, right? And so I think it's a matter of having patience to wait until trial. I think that it's less frustrating, even though it's difficult. I think it might be less frustrating if one can, like one as in anyone can, not really try to figure some of those things out yet. Where we don't have enough information, right? So like what I'm trying to do is take things where we get information. For example, we got more information at those hearings. We got more information recently, information about what did happen, and then sort of like look at it and see where there's contradicting evidence or whatever, right? But like, I think that it's tough when you want to solve it, right? Which, as we know, is not the point anyway of a trial, for better or worse. That's really not what it comes down to, right? But I think that to the extent that having patience for trial, you know, that's just one of those things that, at least for me, I think keeps me from going completely insane. Because like this is again just one of those cases where we have so little information, right? So does anybody know who these people are, though? Habit evidence. So what's interesting, so this is expert witnesses, guys, right? But this is a married couple, which is why it's weird. Testimony must exclude everything other than specifically disclosed, included purported habit evidence. I mean, am I tripping? This is expert testimony, right? Yeah, experts. I mean, so it's odd enough already if you've got experts that are a married couple. Like, what? Weird. All right, and then we already read about Mr. Cox with Amazon on the other document where they referenced him about the purchases with the Amazon click activity. So we read all that. Okay, Michael Douglas. Any opinion testimony must be excluded. All arguments set forth in Shane Cox paragraph 4 are incorporated as it relates to any testimony about Amazon and Amazon clicks. State intends to use Agent Douglas as an Amazon expert without any explanation other than what a cherry-picked group of records might show. The state has produced some records and reports relating to documents collected by this witness. Not all raw data has been disclosed. No explanation of underlying raw data or how it was analyzed has been disclosed. The state has not produced a summary of an opinion about the purported meaning of such documents. Opinion testimony must be prohibited pursuant to Idaho Criminal Rule 16 and the other things. And then here we have various Idaho state laboratory expert witnesses are anticipated at trial. To the extent their opinions are limited to the reports authored by them and based on their own expert evaluation is not the subject of this motion in limine. This motion seeks an order preventing testimony outside of their reports. Yeah. Testimony through any of these witnesses other than their own opinions stated in Idaho State Police Forensic Laboratory reports must be prohibited pursuant to Idaho Criminal Rule 16, Idaho Rules of Evidence, the court scheduling order, and Mr. Kohberger's federal and state constitutional rights, and all the things. Riley Nolan has been disclosed. Challenge to her proposed testimony is covered in a separate motion in limine. I will just say this, Tonka. I really hope that you don't give up, because I totally understand your frustration, and but I really enjoy getting to discuss things with you. I mean, for example, I remember specifically you were there when we were covering that the motion to preclude the death penalty, and we were talking about the cell phones and the Lori Vallow and all that. And like, specifically, like one of the things that you did that really helped was figuring out, we did the math and like, you know, how many other people do these devices belong to and stuff like that. So, I mean, but that's, I guess, me being selfish in a way, right? Because all of you guys contribute to the conversation and you all matter and are important. So, but you have to do what's best for you, you know, in your own mental health, of course. So, okay. Eric Seat, what a name. The expert opinion of this DNA technician provides an explanation of possible testimony regarding a methodology for DNA testing, YSTR, for which the defense has received no discovery or indication that the method has been used in this case. There's no opinion disclosed other than because of the large volume of the discovery, the state directs the defense to summary reports of the expert's ultimate conclusions, which can be found in Lab Report 3. Lab Report 3 is DNA data of an alternate suspect, but no ultimate opinion or result is specified, footnote 1, okay? Testimony through this witness, other than relating to an alternate perpetrator, must be prohibited pursuant to, interesting, okay. Idaho Criminal Rule 16. Remember, what we heard so far with the alternate perpetrator thing from the state was just as it regards to the tip line, not DNA. Mallory, Tanzola, and Rig, what a name. The state has provided no disclosure for any expert. The thought of Mallory being an expert just tickles me. Related to, speaking of Tonka, the 67 devices, 67 electronic devices and third-party data collected during the investigation. The state has failed to identify what portions of the electronic device data, digital data, and or third-party search warrant return data will be presented. The state has failed to disclose any expert opinion about what any analysis of the devices and data depict. The state has disclosed in discovery a new report stating further examination is taking place. Footnote 2. Police report indicating additional analysis of Mr. Kohberger's computer. Okay. That disclosure came well after the state's discovery deadline. The report does not contain any sort of opinion. Recently, the state submitted rebuttal expert disclosures. Repeatedly, the state writes that it cannot provide rebuttal as Mr. Kohberger has not provided any information about what his experts may say. Jesus Christ, what a mess. The state's disclosure would seem to be the proverbial chicken and egg anecdote, except in criminal proceedings, the accused has rights under the United States Constitution. By the way, did y'all know in Canada, the defense is not required to turn anything over to the state or the prosecution? Nothing. Isn't that crazy? Court proceedings are rule-bound and presiding judges pronounce deadlines. As such, the state was required to provide expert opinions to which Mr. Kohberger would rebut. The state's disclosures remain vague. Mr. Kohberger cannot prepare to confront purported evidence that is undisclosed. The electronic evidence in this case is critical, and the state is impeding the defense from being able to prepare to confront evidence or use evidence in Mr. Kohberger's capital trial. Testimony must be prohibited pursuant to Idaho, all the rules, right? Detective Gilbertson. The state did not disclose Detective Gilbertson in their initial disclosures, but instead listed him as a rebuttal witness. The state did not identify any specific expert or opinion that the detective will rebut. Thus, the court should exclude this testimony as outside the scope of rebuttal and irrelevant. Moreover, the court should exclude the testimony under 403B. The relevance of this testimony is minimal at best and carries a serious risk of juror confusion. The detective walked alone through a house and he is intimately familiar with in the middle of broad daylight more than 1 week after the house had been vacated. Interesting. So hang on. So this detective this is interesting to me. This detective is intimately familiar with this house. In the middle of broad daylight, more than 1 week after the house had been vacated and changed significantly. He simply counted out loud upon entering rooms. What the fuck is this? The detective walked alone through a house that he is intimately familiar with in the middle of broad daylight more than 1 week after the house had been vacated and changed significantly due to a homicide investigation. He simply counted out loud upon entering rooms. What? Additionally, Mr. Kohberger attempted to learn more about the experiment. What is the experiment? Through discovery, he sought things such as recordings or photographs of the timed run or written notes and documented during the experiment. Nothing was provided in discovery, and this prosecution states those items did not exist. 104. So, what? Is this an experiment trying to see how long it would take? What? That can't be that. There's no way, because that's not like a real experiment, right? Like they know that, right? I'm just, I don't know what are you guys are talking about, a river and a bridge. I have no idea what y'all are talking about. Could be a joke from something, but yes. So counted out loud upon entering rooms. Was this counting how many rooms there were? Was this trying to count how long it would take to get to different rooms? This is interesting. It does. Here's the thing. The fact that the defense is saying that it was a house that this dude was intimately familiar with and that it was in broad daylight and had been vacated makes it seem like this dude was probably supposed to be showing how quickly one person could do this or whatever, given the fact that everything that they mentioned are things that would make it easier to get through the house quickly. That's just one thing I can glean from this. Okay, but the point being, they didn't get this discovery. Nothing was provided in discovery. The prosecution stated those items did not exist. Finally, the court should exclude this testimony because it violates Mr. Kohberger's due process. The house has been torn down. The defense, well, I was just thinking about this, and I was thinking about how interesting it was that neither the defense or the state, at their last chance, neither side wanted to keep it, which is interesting to me. What are you referencing here, Heather? Are you saying that, is that a quote from something, or is that you looking at something? Gary Dawson, this expert was disclosed for the first time in the state's rebuttal experts. He's a toxicology expert. Mr. Kohberger did not disclose an expert relating to toxicology. This expert is not a rebuttal expert and should be excluded from trial. Yeah, that sounds pretty simple right there. David Middleman, this expert was disclosed, and we read that motion in limine already. Okay. Late disclosed expert opinions do not allow the defense sufficient opportunity to conduct the follow-up investigation necessary and put the defense at a significant disadvantage. The state has turned over numerous generic responses identifying expert names, but only vaguely describing the subject matter that they will testify to. The disclosures do not identify the content of the anticipated testimony, nor the documents or evidence that the evident expert relied on to reach that conclusion. Other courts analyzing the analogous federal rules have explained why late disclosures are so prejudicial to the opposing party, even in the civil context, in which constitutional protections are far fewer than those guaranteed criminal defendants. So then you're citing some case law here. I mean, this all goes without saying, right? We already know they need to be provided with they need to be provided with their opinions, the expert witness opinions, but I'm glad that they're backing up with case law. Yeah, this is good. Thus, a scheduling order is not a frivolous piece of paper idly entered, which can be cavalierly disregarded by counsel without peril. Yeah. Parties must understand that they will pay a price for failure to comply strictly with scheduling orders, and that failure to do so may properly support severe sanctions and exclusions of evidence. Now, this is something they can fall back on too. If this continues, if this tomfoolery continues as trial approaches, we discussed this a lot, right? That whole thing with the motion to preclude the death penalty. I think that the timing matters. The state needs to be careful. And they need to turn shit over. The same analysis is applicable here and carries even more force. Mr. Kohberger is a capital defendant who is entitled to his day in court. He is entitled to a heightened standard of reliability because prosecutors are seeking his execution. Prejudice is magnified in a criminal case when the state has the advantage of the defendant's expert disclosures in drafting their initial expert opinions. The state has the resources of dozens, if not hundreds. I mean, we know this, right? They have all the resources, obviously. Notably, the state did not seek modification of the scheduling order to allow for a later disclosure deadline, which would have equally applied to the defense and would not have given the prosecution a tactical advantage. It is fundamentally unfair for the state to shirk the court's order and reap the tactical advantage of being able to review the defense's expert opinions for making their initial disclosures. Yeah. I mean, this was all very clear when this all came up in the hearing that there was fuckery here. It's like, no. But then Judge Hippler kind of gave them a workaround where they could just ask for, if they showed good cause, just file it late, Okay. Next up. Motion in limine number 1. So we're finishing this batch with the first motion in limine, just as the way it worked out. Inflammatory evidence. Mr. Kohberger respectfully requests this court to order the state to to not try the case through eliciting testimony and other evidence that is especially inflammatory. Presenting the case in an emotional and inflammatory way is unfairly prejudicial. Any probative value is less than the danger. Additionally, the prosecution should not present the same information in a variety of ways, which is misleading or cumulative and a waste of time. There's rule 403 again. Do y'all have this memorized yet? You probably should. This case contains over 68 terabytes of data. The data contains thousands of photographs. Many depict the same content. So what they're getting at here is the crime scene, okay? There are photographs that depict the deceased as well as the same location without the deceased. Now, one case that this came up in, like, you don't always hear this come up because a lot of times they sort of agree ahead of time, but this came up in the Zachary Hughes case where the defense, so we don't even know what it was, but there was something about that crime scene that must have been especially bad to where they couldn't even talk about it. I don't know what it is. We know that the body was like staged, but like, in other words, it's not that it was just a stabbing. There was something else that we don't know about. Okay. And for that reason, it was controversial. And there was a lot that went on about how many pictures, what kind of pictures, So, and I'm only bringing that up to say that generally speaking, it seems like this, you know, the parties kind of agree and like, you know, either, you know, there's pictures that are going to come in, right? I think that if you're dealing with something that maybe is specifically different, you know, and it would be a case by case basis where it's like it's in addition to like showing the wound, for example, right? Or things that are like, obviously like this, the jury needs to see this evidence, right? But things that are like over the top. I don't know if I'm making any sense. And I can't really even give an example because we don't get to learn the examples, right? But anyway, just saying that what the defense is saying here is like the state could try to show more pictures than is necessary just to get the jury worked up, right? You know, so there are photographs that depict the deceased as well as the same location without the deceased. Multiple officers took photographs of the same areas. Additionally, there are many hours of body-worn camera footage. So you know where this is already pointing at. Cumulative, right? I hear cumulative out of this. Body-worn footage depicts the officers moving through the house. There are hundreds of photographs of autopsy proceedings. In addition to this evidence, over 100 officers and investigators have been involved in the case and hundreds of people that have been interviewed. Mr. Kohberger seeks to protect the integrity of his trial and requests an order preventing inflammatory evidence, including testimonial evidence, be excluded. Mr. Kohberger acknowledges that the Supreme Court has held that a photograph cannot be excluded merely on the basis of being gruesome. However, Mr. Kohberger is not making that motion. Rather, he is requesting the state be prevented from introducing inflammatory evidence. Interesting. Okay, so they're going to have to make a distinction here between gruesome and inflammatory. Multiple studies have found that mock jurors are likely to convict when exposed to graphic photos. Other studies have shown that judicial instructions to ignore such evidence are ineffective, while some have actually found that such instructions cause jurors to place more emphasis on that evidence. What is that saying? What that is saying is that it's an interesting thing, right? Like curative instructions, right? It's similar to how it's a strategy as to how like dealing with objections. So, for example, if it doesn't matter which party you are, right? Whether if it's the plaintiff or the defense, or if it's a criminal trial, you know, prosecution or the defense. Objecting is there's a lot of strategy, right? Because if you don't object, it doesn't go onto the record. But the other thing is, and this really pertains more to the state because the defense, only the defense is going to appeal, right? If there's a conviction, right? So their priority is preserving the record for appeal. But for the state, it's really more strategy. They have that benefit of where they can really object on a more strategic basis. So what I mean by that is this. Sometimes if you object, you draw more attention to something. So for example, if there's something happening that maybe you don't want this to come out, this witness to say something, and the defense is, you know, they're being questioned by the defense attorney, whether it's direct or cross, but you know, the state is the one who's going to be the objecting party. The jury might not be listening, or they might not even think it's important. It might just go over their heads and they aren't, you know, But here's the thing is whenever there's been testimony and people are talking and then all of a sudden there's objection, you know what that does is that gets the jury's attention. 100%. So it can draw attention to it. Similarly to a curative instruction, right? When judges come in and they make such a big deal about disregarding this or that or the other thing, the jury must understand that means this thing is important, right? Again, whereas to jurors, they don't know how all this works. And so if it's like there's, you know, objections and then they're sent out, they may not understand that whatever it is that just came up could be like an earth-shattering thing. It could be a door opening. It could be like Zachary Hughes' trial is a great example because stuff like that happened the entire time, right? But then if the judge comes back in with a curative instruction and they don't usually get a curative instruction, you see what I mean? So similar thing. What they're saying here, right, is that studies show that judicial instructions, that's like a curative instruction essentially, right? Judicial instructions to ignore such evidence are ineffective, while some actually found that it causes the jurors to place more emphasis on that evidence. And that's exactly why I wanted to give those other examples, because now they're like, oh, that means this thing's important. They didn't want us to know about it, or they didn't want us to whatever, right? Okay, Mr. Kohberger's, but the point being there that a curative instruction is not the answer. That's what they're saying. Like after they already see it, it's too late. That's what they're saying. Mr. Kohberger's right to a fair trial is free from irrelevant, cumulative, and unfairly prejudicial evidence as guaranteed by the Constitution of the State of Idaho and the United States of America would be violated to allow exhibits depicting gruesome details or the emotional reactions of the police officers at the scene or during their testimony at trial. They're not going to be able to keep that out for sure. Now, cumulative, that's if they keep showing it the same pictures over and over again, but there's no way to keep out emotional testimony because those officers are going to have to testify to what they did and what they experienced. And, you know, that is what it is. So, okay, so here's the thing. So here's the thing. So that we are now, I just wanted to reiterate, we have now covered everything up until the most recent batch. So we have covered all of it, except for the things where it's just like, this is sealed and it's like, there's nothing there, right? It's like one sentence or whatever. Because some of these just, they end up not containing anything, right? But of everything that contains something, wait, hold on. We're missing one document. I just remembered. Hold on. Did I not pull it up? I hold on. Table that thought. There's one document we haven't done, and I just remembered it. Hold on. It is this one. I'm glad I remembered it. All right. We had not done this one. This is the last one. So this is State's Motion to Eliminate Self-Authentication of Records. We hadn't done this one. And after this, we will have done them all. Okay. So this is exceptions to hearsay, right? So business record, you know, we've talked a lot about this, public records, you know, but here's what I wanted to take a look at because this is where we're going to see what they intended to use, right? So at trial, the state introduced the following certified statements and or records under Idaho rules of evidence. So these are hearsay exceptions, business records or public records. Okay. So this is all camera footage. Now, it's technically hearsay. The Linda Lane surveillance footage is technically hearsay. Anyone needs me to explain that, I can. All of this, it's all hearsay, right? But they're saying there's exceptions. Now, why does this matter? Because essentially, it is being offered for the truth of the matter asserted. That's the thing that's interesting about it. These are being offered for the truth of the matter asserted. If they weren't being offered for the truth of the matter asserted, we wouldn't be seeing this right now. They wouldn't need exceptions. The only reason they need exceptions for hearsay is if these are being offered for the truth of the matter asserted. That's why this is interesting to me. Like, for example, bagel shop video. It's being offered for the truth that something happened at that bagel shop at a certain time, right? Versus just like whatever. So it's interesting. So we have the Albertsons, Amazon, financial and user records, AT&T phone records. Wow, a lot of people had AT&T. Bryan, Kohberger, Madison, Xena. Wow. What do y'all use? Do y'all have AT&T or Verizon or something else? Bagel shop, like we said, Bank of America, Banner Bank, banking records. Never heard of that. Probably a local thing. Cafe Artista video surveillance. Corner Club video surveillance, Corner Club financial transaction receipts of sale, Costco, DeSale student records for Bryan Kohberger, Dick's Sporting Goods, record of sale for Bryan Kohberger, Discover financial records, DoorDash records for Xana and Ethan, early warning records. What the fuck is that? Oh, that might have been from the school. Okay. Elan financial records, E&S Services. I think I know exactly which place this is because I think I found it on when I was mapping one time. Hang on, let me just see here. Hold on. Yep, that's exactly the place I thought it was. That is so fucking funny. So in the other, I can't forget which document it's in. There's a document where it gives the address. It might be the PCA, but it doesn't say what the building is. Anyway, I scrolled the fuck out of it. Let me just show you guys what I'm talking about. I scrolled the fuck out of it with this. And if I recall, you can't actually like see the address from the street. Not photos. Oh my God. But I confirmed. So that's why, I don't know, what was it I just said? I said something like, oh, is this the place? Da, da, da. I was thinking out loud. Anyway, I figured out that this was called E&S Services, but nothing ever said that. But anyway, it's funny because they just named it. So this is the place. Now, the place that I called, right, where I, is up here. Remember I called the place about the car dealership thing? Where was that? I think it's right up here. Yep. So the place that I called, remember when the dude was like, oh, are you local? That's this place that I called. Because that's an even better place. So that's what I'm saying, right? To have the car on camera down back where we just were, whatever. This, now we're talking, right? This is Bishop. Like, again, I did all that because we don't have the footage at that major intersection that matters. So, okay. Anyway, so, just funny. Farmers Insurance surveillance video, Floyd's Cannabis, Forrest Dax, crypto financial records, interesting. Grub Truck, Harbor Freight. Dude, let me just say, a huge shout out to Harbor Freight. Y'all, I freaking love Harbor Freight, and I have not been to Harbor Freight in way too long. I freaking love Harbor Freight. I have an anvil. My anvil came from Harbor Freight. I have a rivet setter that came from Harbor Freight. I have all kinds of tools that came from Harbor Freight. Freaking love Harbor Freight. Good question. Can you withdraw money from any cash machine in the U.S. or only ones you bank with? That's a good question. And I will be honest, I don't know the answer. I probably used to know the answer, but I have not been to an ATM in years and years and years and years. I've not handled cash in years and years and years. That is a really good question. Someone should know, though. That's a question that somebody will know in the chat, I would imagine. Thank you for that good question, though. That's a good one. And this is kind of what I was thinking, that some might charge you fees. Like, one thing I was thinking is, like, you know, there's those machines in gas stations or whatever, right? That are like not really ATMs, but like they let you withdraw money from like different banks, but I think they always charge a fee. But yeah, like if you go to like a Wells Fargo and you try to withdraw cash from like another bank, you know, I guess it just depends. Okay. Yeah. All too fast is confirming. If you can withdraw money from any ATM, if it's not your bank's charge service fee. And good. Thank you guys. So yeah, anyone else here also love Harbor Freight? Idaho Central Credit Union, Indian Mountain Lake Surveillance. Y'all, the way we did that. Anyway, Google let us astray. JM Fabrics, Latah County Sheriff's Office, Darren Duke body cam video, citation, Marshall's financial records, National Weather Service records. Are we going to hear about it snowing? Did they shovel the apron? Numerica bank records. They had a lot of different bank things. PayPal, Venmo, financial records. PNC bank records. Now, having said that, if you do withdraw from an ATM that's not your bank's ATM, I would imagine that would show up still, though, with your bank statement, not on the other bank, right? Because it's like you're just using the machine for the money, but like the statement's going to show up through your bank, I would think. So Pennsylvania State Employees Credit Union, Petco, financial records, Rite Aid. Wow. Interesting. Sunset Mart. Hang on. 14. Why won't, okay, hold on just a second. Okay. All right. So they have camera from this Chevron. Those motherfuckers, dude. So they're trying to do what I did, essentially, right? So, kind of. So this is, dude, but it's fuckery, though. It's before the turn, right? This is on that route back, which no one would dispute. But it's not on the route there, I don't think. Let me go back to the document. Hold on. So I mean, it doesn't specify, but it has to be, because we know because it's been referenced so many times where the cameras, I mean, even in the PCA. So this would be on that route back. Remember how we looked at the maps that I made and it had all those red dots? Remember how there were like a fuck ton of red dots going up to that intersection? This would be one of those. So that makes sense. But again, that doesn't actually, like, the thing is this, it's like they're gonna be able, it looks like, to be able to prove, yep, this is the route he came home. But like, no one's disputing that from what it looks like, right? That's not that issue, because the thing is what happened before, as I keep saying. So, and that's the thing, is like that stuff, that information is woefully inadequate, right? Target financial records, TikTok user records. T-Mobile, Umpqua. Twiz, are you still listening? Umpqua. Under Armour, U.S. Chef Store, video surveillance. Now that's interesting, because, like, again, remember, this is being offered for the truth of the matter asserted. So what is the truth of the matter asserted there? Like, what would he buy at a chef store, apparently, right? Like, it's video surveillance. I guess they're going to show it's him. Ulta financial records. Verizon phone records. Walmart. Wells Fargo. Gosh, a lot of banks. Winco. WC parking records. Okay. And the state relies on this alternative, which is other exceptions. Okay, so now they're offering some additional exceptions to hearsay. We already know all this. Right. Regularly conducted business activity. I mean, that what seems like a normal one. The thing that is just so interesting to me is, like, they're not saying it's not hearsay. That's what I find so fascinating about this. They're not saying it's not hearsay, which means it's being offered for the truth of the matter asserted. Crazy. So where we were is I was showing y'all that we had covered everything, which now we have, right? Apart from what we have that is new. So again, some of this is like not a whole lot in there, but we do have this order motion for permission to exceed page limit and an order granting it, and this one, the state's response to the defendant. So what's happening is now we're getting the state's responses to these defendant, I mean, as you guys can see, right? But this is where we're going to pick up with part 6, because we've now gotten all caught up except for what is now coming out as new. And there's going to be more, right? So we will do part 6 next time, where we will cover the documents here, and then there will be other things as well. So the next big thing will be the Karen Reed stuff, because the motions in limine are just, there's just motions in limine all over the place in these cases, right? It's just insanity. So yeah, so I think we'll be doing the Karen Reed motions here shortly. I need to make sure I've got, there's just, well, again, I went live earlier, but I was on the wrong stream and it was private, and so nobody saw it. But there may even have been some more things posted. I'll have to see, because I have quite a few though, so it's probably good to go. But yeah, so we will be doing that soon here, and then we will figure out where to go after that. I still need to finish making my Lori Vallow thumbnail. And I'm going to keep working as well on that fun trivia project for our first members only live stream with law trivia. So that will be coming up here soon as well. And again, that will be our first members only live stream. So, but that will be it for this one. So we are now, again, we are up to speed apart from what the just few newest filings here, which is awesome. So shout out to all the Scroll Crew friends of the world, and everyone else who is new. Welcome. Love to have you guys here. And hopefully you guys can join us here shortly in maybe about 2 hours or so time as we go through more motions in limine, but this time pertaining to Karen Reed. But other than that, I love y'all, and I'll see you guys next time.